Welcome to the Wisdom Circle. To subscribe or follow us on your favorite podcast platforms, please visit us at www.thewisdomcircle.com.
Welcome. You are in the Wisdom Circle, and I am here with my friend Tony Panturo. We have a spectacular kickoff to this season, and a wonderful guest who I will tell you is John Miller from NBC, one of the all-time, maybe GOAT, I don't like the word GOAT, but greatest of all-time marketers, has been through the linear to cable to streaming worlds, and brings a ton of wisdom, which we'll try to tap into today. But right now, we're going to go. Tony, how are you doing? 2025?
I am doing good, Ray. Looking forward to 2025. This is our first podcast in the year 2025. So we made it into a second year, a second season. So I guess we got renewed by you and I. We don't have to ask anything.
I was going to say, it's good to be the executive producers with the budget.
Right. That's right. I guess like anything else, the consumer will either buy your product or put you out of business if they stop. So we do have listeners and viewers. We're going to do our best to build that audience in 2025, but we like what we see. And as you have said many times to me, offline, as they say, you start to build a foundation, and Seinfeld wasn't a hit overnight. We probably can ask a little bit of those questions to John later, too. He was probably in the midst of all of that.
Bet he was. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's he's going to give us some good guidance on that and getting the word out. So I think one of the things we also talk about is feedback from anyone listening or viewing. What do you like? What don't you like? Tell your friends and family that this is here. I think a lot of things, and I look forward to talking to John about this too. A lot of successful content is word of mouth. I think the new TV guide is having dinner with friends or being on a chat or a phone and saying, "So what are you watching?"
Exactly.
What are you watching? That's the new TV guide. And so, the world has changed. I'll go to you first because that'll give me a chance to think. Although I already have. What are you going into 25 thinking about, or anything like? I know you're perfect as you are, but how do you improve on that?
I try to keep an open mind. I'm not a big fan of listing. I was actually talking to some friends yesterday about, well, we're not going to drink for dry January. It's like, well, okay, someone tells you it's dry January, you're not going to drink. I mean, just decide how to moderate and do what you want to do, and by Wednesday, they'll be, drinking a beer after golf and say, oh, I forgot it was dry January. So,
well, that's dry January. Some people, beer is dry January.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So I just try to keep an open mind. I read something recently. We all know we learn from past experiences, but I'm paraphrasing the saying is you can't rehash things, keep rehashing things that you didn't like, or you wish you did something different. You can't go back. You can learn, but you're better to just move forward and use that experience in your future life. And as we get older, to me, it's about, I personally, and I know you're the same way, I want to keep learning, keep listening, keep giving back. This is something we're doing. How can we share what we've learned in the sense of as we call it, the wisdom circle, and really be positive to people. Every time, whether you're at a checkout at a grocery store or a bartender, whatever, just put a smile on your face and be a nice person, because there's a lot of anger out there. And we talked about whether we should bring up the fire or not, but I think it's tragic. I have a brother close to it, but not in it, at least at the moment. But it sort of puts life in perspective. What's important? Do you have your health? Do you have your family ones close by? And don't get all caught up in too many things that aren't really important in life.
So there were two examples I saw recently. on looking at the LA fires, which are tragic, and I think we can't not talk about them a little bit here. One was a guy who had his family around him in the burned out structure of what he saw was the chimney, and he just said, I got everything I need right here. There was an older woman who didn't seem to have a lot of family around her, but she found like a bell that her husband had hung on the front door. And she said, I have everything I need right here. And, it's going to be tough to build it all the way back, but those are the things that are meaningful. And so I think that, those are the things we want to keep an eye on. For me, I'm having a damp January, which is different than dry.
Just a little sprinkle, let's sprinkle the infield a little bit.
It's damp. Yeah, it's damp. I don't need to be dry. We'll talk about intentions versus resolutions when John comes on. But but I think for me, and we talk about wisdom and giving back and sharing, and I'm going to ask John what wisdom would you give yourself, your younger self, with the experience you've picked up? For me, I'm a big music fan, as you know, and the song "Let It Be" has been around since 1970. But there's something about, I'm a type A. I want to control things. I think if I work hard enough, think hard enough, work hard enough, I control the outcome. And some of it's just, no, that is not how it works. We've talked about how our careers were somewhat like surprises to us. Right? I didn't know I was going to wind up doing what I tell Linda or whatever, and that we don't control it. So there's something about, and I read we both read something about, wisdom is really patience. Just let things come to you. Oftentimes, like, I want to try to help my kids and tell them this, but boy, when they come to me and ask a question that I might have answered without them asking, they're hearing it differently when they've asked the question. And so I think there's a lot about that, being patient and letting the world come to you, and just breathe and enjoy the life and the spins around the sun that we both had. I think you've had one more than me, but I'm catching up to you in a couple of weeks. Well, for half a year. And so I think that those are the things that I'm taking into, is just try to let it be. Just relax. It's easier when you don't have a full-time job.
Right. No, but and as you say, our younger selves, we all can look back. We can look back and say, what did we do that worked out? But we didn't know it at the time, right? But to me, it was about, you said it, having patience, build a foundation. I always use it to clarify, build your brand. Who Ray Warren was well liked and respected because of how you acted. You were honest, you communicated clearly, you were straightforward, there were no gimmicks, there were no games. And people noticed the opposite of that with people. I used to call it like, if Ray Warren calls, that we were friends for a long time, it's like, oh yeah, give me the call, let's talk. Or John Smith calls, just making up a name, who's not a nice person, and you just like, tell him I'll call him back. You don't want to be the person that is, tell him I'll call him back, that person. And take risks, don't be afraid. And then I think the biggest thing, because we're not all perfect, including us, but if you're in a situation in business and you just know you're around bad people, you got to get out of there. You got to have confidence in yourself and find your people. Because not everyone's great, and they got bosses who say, do this, do that, I want you to do this. And if you know it's not right, or you're not getting support, then you got to move on. So that's sort of the collective box.
Yeah, I think it all goes back to, and this will work in life, in business, be nice. If you're nice to that checkout person, you've made their day better. They're going to make somebody else's day better, or they'll be more resilient to some schmo who comes in and complains about, how long the line was or whatever. So, being nice is a good thing. And to your point, being nice to everyone, not just the people who can help you, not just Tony Panturo, who will take my call because I'm nice, but to Margaret, who's his assistant, who, one of my, I always thought, secret weapons was just be nice to the assistant. Be nice to everybody along the way, because A, you don't know what the assistant's going to wind up, and B, they're going to help you get to the guy you're trying to get to, who may not know you're a nice guy, but you want him to know. So we bang that around. We're hitting that point in the show where you might want to have a closing comment or something. I'd like to bring John on.
No, I think it's good time to bring on John and
Perfect.
Get some real wisdom in this conversation.
And when we're done, we have 10 minutes in us, and we gave it a lot. So, without further ado, I'm really excited and thankful John D. Miller is with us, and we'd love to have him join us right now. Good morning, John. So happy to have you. How are you doing?
Good to be here at the Wisdom Circle.
You are.
John.
Hopefully I can impart some.
You're in the Wisdom Circle.
Yes, right.
You're making a circle, actually, with me and Tony.
It's a line right now, but I'll go with the circle idea. Okay.
Right. Exactly. No, it's really, really fun to see you, and we've been friends a long time, and it's been, and we've all seen your work over the years, so we're very excited. So tell us, 2025 going in, how do you approach a new year, and how's it changed over the years, and what's like top of mind?
I was listening to your first opening segment before you let me join the circle here. And, I thought about the things that I would give advice to my younger self. And the thing that still applies, even now I've been retired a couple of years and still have some projects, but one is don't procrastinate, because you lose, the things you lose is time. Mm-hmm. And so jump right in, do it, but don't be too impulsive, because that's where you can make mistakes, and then that'll slow things down. So those are the two things that I would impart. And then for those who are listening, there's one other thing that I would say to people who who reported to me, because I would do this one and same for the people who I reported to, as I would go by something called the double no rule.
Okay.
So when someone says, "Nah, we're not going to do that," and you give whether you give your boss an idea, and he says, "Nah," or people have come to you and say, "Well, this is the idea," and I say no, and then I encouraged everybody, and did myself, to go with the double no rule, because sometimes people are impulsive when they just say no, and they say, "Well, let me come back at you a slightly different way," and this is why I think that's an important thing. That generally gives people a sense that, okay, well, the guy actually believes in it. Maybe we should consider it. At a certain point, then he'd say, I hear what you're saying, but no, we're not going to do that. At that point, stop. Mm-hmm. Because now you're just going to irritate them. But the second no is important because it shows intent, thoughtfulness, resolution. Right. And then a double no indicates, okay, well, let's not waste time. He has to make a decision. I have to make a decision. And then we go on with it. Being in a creative position, there were several people who were creative that paid no attention to that double no. and would go to 3, 4, 5. I'd simply say, okay, now we're done. Please leave the office. So, but that would be the other thing that I would say as a wisdom thing, is employ the double no rule, because good ideas will find their way through the double no. And you can still maintain your dignity by accepting a second no.
That's really good. It kind of goes all the way back to, first understand, right? And then make a decision. Yeah. So sometimes, to your point, that second little tranche of getting to the second no, it's respectful. And it also will give people a sense of that you listen to them and you still want.
So then that's my little 2025 wisdom sharing.
Very nice, very nice. Tony, how do you like that?
Well, John, what I was going to ask you, Ray and I, of course, know you and what you did, but our audience probably doesn't know the full John Miller. So it may be good for, I don't know, a minute or so to just give a little soundbite of what you really did at NBC, so people understand that.
Because you went through it all. Right? I mean, he went from.
I worked in media for 50 years. The first 5 or 6 were in local television stations, combination of NBC and CBS stations. Then I was asked to go to the West Coast for affiliate marketing, and then a year as head of marketing for CBS News. This is circa 1981. Then was brought back to NBC, where I became affiliate marketing, and then quickly went to head of marketing for the West Coast, and then head of marketing for the entire network. And now we're at about 1984-85 period.
Wow.
Right at the time when the first season that I had full responsibility for launching was The Cosby Show, Miami Vice, Highway to Heaven, and one other one called, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, those three at least were enough to sort of turn the network around. And I was reporting to a guy named Brandon Tartikoff at the time, very creative guy. Did that for a period of time. Then I got a little tired, and I had done a couple of marketing things that actually brought in revenue as well as trying for audience. I moved to New York for about a year and a half as executive vice president of marketing for both consumer marketing and sales marketing. Sales marketing hated what I did, but then Brandon left, and a guy named Warren Littlefield came over as head of marketing, and then I went back, and I said I don't want to do just marketing, so I became executive vice president of marketing, daytime children's and primetime specials, and so I did that for a while. A little later on, the company had a situation where they had revenue. They would take revenue from company for inventory on the television network, and so they would give equity. And they didn't have agencies, and so we would say, can you help them out? So I was now doing work for Snap.com and a bunch of .coms. And so we ended up forming something called the NBC Agency, and I was president of the NBC Agency from the late 90s until 2004 when we merged with Universal. And then I became chief marketing officer of the NBC Universal Television Group. I'm not actually sure there was something called that, but that was my title. And did that largely until the end of 2009, 2010, about the time that the Comcast merger came in. And now I'm about 60, and I've gone through the must-see TV era, and that's probably the thing that I'm most known for. And then at the merger of NBC and Universal at Comcast, they asked me to go back to the East Coast because I said I sort of now want to go back to the East Coast because my wife wanted to go back there. And I signed on for initially 2 years, reporting to both the CEO, because I chaired a marketing council for the full company that allowed the marketers to work together for the betterment of the company and each other. And they wanted me to continue doing that. And then Dick Ebersol, because we had now all of a sudden had a large sports group. This is where I got connected with Ray Warren. I went in for 2 years to sort of help with the branding and some pitching Olympics and a few other things. And then a guy named Mike McCarley, who now went to run the Golf Channel, he left, and all of a sudden I was chief marketing officer of this new sports group. Was not actually my intent, but I did that, and I stayed doing that until right around 2018. Left that piece, but still stayed on with the marketing council, reporting to Steve Burke, and then ultimately Jeff Shell. And then at the age of 72, I said that was it. Hit 50-year mark, and I said, okay, I've done 50 years for the media, 43 years of it with NBC, NBC Universal, Comcast. It just name kept getting longer, and then I retired and had a couple little projects, but just sort of doing life. So that's it. So the real question, what would people know me for? First of all, I think I launched probably a couple hundred television shows that many of you would remember, many of you wouldn't. But among them was Seinfeld. You referred to that in your opening. The whole must-see TV lineup, which would have been Friends and ER, and going back earlier, Golden Girls and West Wing and Law and Order Criminal Intent, Law and Order SVU, Law and Order Take My Child to Lunch, Law and Order, all of the Law and Orders. And then I actually worked a little bit on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien, The Tonight Show with Jay Leno again, The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. So you name your Tonight Shows, I did as long as you can remember. And then the other one I was that I was very proud of is that I marketed 12 Olympics mostly I was the lead marketer on that, sort of determined the strategy and the marketing and the promotion of that. And then for the last three that were done, not counting Paris, I was not involved with Paris because I was retired by that point. The other three, I used the Olympics are a great opportunity to market the rest of the company. And so I would determine how to utilize the promotional inventory during the games. I was effectively one of the largest advertisers during the games, but our product was NBC or NBC Universal, or the products of NBC Universal or Comcast as later on. So that's like, and then a few other things I would, and I won't just go too long, but along the way, I marketed The Apprentice for better or worse. You can do however you voted on that one. You can determine whether that was good or bad. But I helped.
It's a pretty good show.
I helped create a persona that is present to this day. And also odd things like the XFL, the first one. And when I worked for the sports group, we wanted to sort of make some noise when we launched the Premier League. And so we created a character called Ted Lasso to do that. And so somehow I created through the marketing campaign an Emmy-winning show.
So Donald Trump and Ted Lasso.
Yeah, after that, the executive producer of the show, who I knew because he was also the producer of Scrubs, another show that I launched, after they won the Emmy, I sent him a note saying, I feel like a sperm donor at a beauty pageant because what I did for Ted Lasso. So that gives you a little bit of sense of what I did.
That's a lot of stuff. It's an interesting dichotomy of Ted Lasso, a very kind, sweet, human.
The other thing I would say about your opening segment about being kind, and because we all had high-level executive positions, and some level of power came along with that. And there are people that viewed that as the end result. And I never did, and I never really thought of myself as powerful. I basically thought of it as a creative guide to say, well, what works to get some people in the American public to watch a television show, and how to get them to watch more. And I was pretty good at getting them to watch it at least once.
Hey, John, and it's really Ray's turn, but I'll just jump in here real quick, then I'll stay silent for a while. But, in today's world, everything is so data-driven. And I know back in my beer marketing days, a lot of it was instinct and how you felt about things. There was data, but not to the degree there is today. So I'm curious, as you look to market a show, whatever that show is, you can use the example, how much of it was focus groups and data, or how much was it your and your team's instinct?
Well, the data becomes very important right now in the streaming world, because so much of it is what people watch and then how they get served, and algorithms that can actually grow and build the platform. So what you get them on, you serve them. And that is a very much data oriented. In the time when you were at Budweiser and I was at NBC, yes, we had ratings, and we had focus groups, and we had research, and I viewed all of that as a guide. I said you don't. It turns on the lights, but it doesn't tell you how to arrange the furniture.
Yeah.
So you can't arrange the furniture in a dark room because you turn on the lights and it's a mess. But the research can put on the lights for you and allow your creative to work within that framework. And so I would say it would always be a kind of a combination of those two. I was interested in getting research about the shows, the creative that we had put together, new campaigns. I would focus group almost everything. Sometimes I would change it, and sometimes I wouldn't, because sometimes I just felt I have enough experience here that I think I can go a slightly different way. And I also knew which levers to pull at various times, going with what was going on in the country and in social landscape that I could sort of tie into. And so with a creative person, you have to feel that you can't be just data driven. Otherwise, you're not really a creative person. You're just AI.
Yeah. No, and I wonder about, well, there it is, the two magic letters that have, started up getting more popular in 24 and will be more popular in 25, AI.
Yes.
I was talking about that at dinner the other night about, will it give more work, less work? Will we know if we're being duped? Well,
Well, that's
what's your
that's a
thoughts
tough
on
one.
AI?
One of the things that they recently did, when AI only learns from itself, uh, everything becomes the same after a while. After about 20 times, when AI goes back to study from AI and keeps learning it from itself, it ends up that everything ends up being the same and homogenized. Where initially it was diverse and different, but then after multiple times it wasn't. So I'm not sure if that's an AI glitch or something that would be changed. But
Yeah.
by the same token,
Sure.
the fast learning power, I think, has enormous influences on various industries, but
Yeah.
we have yet to sort of experience what they
Right.
all are.
It is such a wild time. Yes. Otherwise, to your point, it sounds a little bit more like an echo chamber. We have
Yeah,
plenty of
yeah.
echo chambers. We don't need another echo chamber.
But I will tell you one thing that I usually did a holiday poem as we sit down for the big meal with a large family. This year I had three sons over and their couple of grandkids and wives and things like that. And I just didn't have time to write the poem this year. So one of my sons, who was actually very good, went to AI and fed in and said who all was coming and what their sort of position in life was, and do it with a sense of like grandfather's charm. And at the end, give a little bit of a more religious message because of what you are at the Christmas holiday, what it means. And so, and it turned out, he says, it sounded an awful lot like yours.
Wow.
And so I was sort of taken by that, the fact that he could give an input of what I would usually do,
Yeah.
and it sort of put out what I usually did. And and
That's
and, and
fascinating.
he got that done in about like 10 minutes.
Wow.
And now, was it a 5 minute speech or 10 or 2?
No, it was I would say maybe I would it might have been 16 stanzas of four, something like
Gotcha.
that.
Gotcha.
Something that you could read in a minute or two.
That's fascinating. There you go.
Yeah.
Real world AI experience.
But and now it would have taken me at least as long to write the poem as to figure out how to use AI. But he was skilled to do that.
Yeah. So the daughter-in-law who says I live on ChatGPT
Yeah.
because she's a lawyer and she's writing things all the time and she's using ChatGPT.
Part 2 of this podcast will be available next week. For more information, please visit us at www.thewisdomcircle.com. Thank you.